Originally, I wanted this video to be about my journey through the Fate collab, but after playing it I came out feeling conflicted. Welcome to Honkai Star Rail, the limited budget works. Quick spoiler warning, this video includes story content from the Fate collab, and the 3.0 and 3.4 Trailblaze main story. Let's get into it. I've been a fan of the Fate franchise for over a decade, so like many other Fate fans, I was extremely excited when Hoyoverse announced the Fate collab of Honkai Star Rail. I love Fate and Honkai Star Rail for similar reasons. Sure, Star Rail doesn't have Fate's deep mythology, but it does have its own godlike beings and legendary heroes. The similarities I'm talking about today though are narrative echoes, story beats, philosophical themes and character interactions. And that makes sense, given that Xiaoji, the narrative designer and main scenario writer for Star Rail, is clearly a big Fate fan. The influence of Fate on Hoyoverse games is baked in deep, so naturally, I expected this Fate collab to be pretty incredible. Hoyoverse's deep pockets had a full year to work on the event, and talented writers. Even if sometimes they make really weird narrative choices, Sparkle story. Like, genuinely, what the fuck was that? Either way, that's not what this is about today. My point is, they had the means to create something truly great. So why did I end up feeling so unsatisfied? Was I expecting too much? No, I don't think so. What I expected was peak writing, deep existential philosophy, references galore, a holy grail war, and meaningful interactions with our beloved Fate characters. You might be thinking, but Keanu, didn't we get those things? And my answer is yes and no. A lot of choices in the development pipeline led to this collab to be, fortunately, pretty mediocre. Let's start with the voice acting. We didn't get an English dub for the Fate characters at launch. I was worried this was going to happen anyway, but the game at least lets you switch languages to be able to experience their voice lines in another way. I played in English dub from launch until now, but since I love Fate and have watched unlimited Blade works in both subbed and dubbed, I decided to swap to Japanese subs to boost my immersion. And everything was going good, it was going well, until we got to Assassin / Mr. Recker's Noble Phantasm. This ability traps others inside of a world of film, where the user can pick roles and genres. This is basically a reality marble, a manifestation of the user's inner world. I loved this idea so much. It was so creative and it had so much potential. It instantly reminded me of One Division. And there's a funny skit where Archer, Aventurine and Boothill all realise that they're trapped in a silent film, and that they can only understand each other thanks to the subtitles. And as a result, there's some fourth wall breaking, and it's genuinely a funny moment. But the silence absolutely overstayed its welcome. The vast majority of voice lines in this whole Noble Phantasm sequence are from Scott, who's arguably the most unlikable character in Star Rail. It doesn't take a lot to know this, does not make for an enjoyable experience. I had swapped to Japanese subs for immersion, only to find most of the story silent. It felt like Hoyoverse just didn't want to pay for more voice lines. The real Noble Phantasm, at this point, was silence cast by the audio department. Then there's Miss Note's storyline. She was a famous songstress from Penacony's history, taken advantage of by a terrible contract and eventually replaced. I really felt for her, but her decision to side with Oti instead of fighting him was ridiculous. Even Robin had to explain how nonsensical it was. There were so many plot holes around her choices, she could have fit right into the next Kingdom Hearts game. Miss Note also trapped us in our own memories, forcing us into a what-if scenario, where we essentially never boarded the Astral Express. This was supposed to be a deep philosophical moment about being true to ourselves and seizing opportunities. Archer's little speech hit hard, genuinely, but we just got done with the 3.4 Trailblaze missions, where we were essentially trapped in endless cycles through Finon's story. It was emotional, rough, and draining. That was some of the best storytelling, don't get me wrong, it was amazing, but I didn't want to feel trapped again, especially not so soon. The length of this collab was not very long at all, so it was frustrating to feel the time being eaten away by repetitive dialogue sections. I honestly don't think it takes that long to get the point across that our freedom of choice is being suppressed. Well, now I know how adventuring felt after Sunday cursed his ass. This segment overstayed its welcome, but I'll give it to Archer. He dropped a TED Talk level monologue in 20 seconds and then dipped.
どうせもっとふさわしい人がいる。この世に後悔を知らない人間などいない。だからといって、そのせいで誰もが足を止めてしまったら、英雄という存在も生まれなかっただろう。行く先の見えない旅路でも、願いを抱いて踏み出した者たちがいる。それは愚かなことかもしれないが。
Being trapped in Herta's space station made sense. It's where we were born and where our journey started. But let's be honest. Reusing ID's Elysier as Britain in Saber's memories was just lazy. As a Brit, I promise you, Britain does not look like this. For perspective, look at some of Genshin Impact's temporary areas. Genshin has its issues, it does, but it still puts this to shame. And speaking of reusing assets, take a look at these characters. This is Ilya, Heracles, and Gilgamesh. Look familiar? Well, they should do. I introduce you to the doppelgangers in the form of Clara, Svarog, and Maide from Star Rail. The fate references are everywhere in the game, yet where were they in this event? These characters are literally from Unlimited Blade Works. Gilgamesh, for example, is one of the most prominent antagonists in all of Fate. Just take a moment to consider how great it would have been to experience the reactions of the Fate characters if they just even met Maide. Now, the biggest problem, the Holy Grail War itself. Fate Zero. The prequel to Unlimited Blade Works shows Saber's evolving wish for the Grail. She wants to save Britain, but learns that changing the past can have catastrophic consequences. So why does Saber, someone with an insanely strong will and a newfound understanding of her past, get trapped in this dream? While it is indeed something she would have done in Fate Zero, I don't believe it's fully true to her character in this specific moment. I enjoyed the exposition on Saber, I really did. I even felt like they absolutely nailed Saber's personality. And not just hers, but Archer and Lancer's too. But this collab was based on Unlimited Blade Works, not Fate Zero. If it was the latter, it makes sense. But it isn't, so I just don't get it. Now, personally, I think the devs missed a huge opportunity. We recently got a flash of our own past, showing clear links with the Stellaron Hunters. Any long-time Star Rail player has been waiting for more on this. Wouldn't it have been beautiful to explore our past deeper during this Fate collab? Saber could have been fully integrated into our dream alongside Archer and Lancer, providing her wisdom and life experience. Each problem in our dream could mirror a decision in her past, guiding us through both her story and ours. Instead of scattering shallow philosophical moments, the story, this way, could have focused on a few core concepts and delivered a satisfying and complete narrative. And finally, the Penacony Holy Grail War didn't feel like a Holy Grail War at all. A Holy Grail War is a brutal magical contest. Servants must be sacrificed to the Grail. It reveals the participants' deepest truths and flaws and tests their ideals about power, sacrifice, and desire. Here, no sacrifices, no wishes. The attempt to test ideals was there, I'll give it that, but it wasn't a home run. Instead of servants being sacrificed, we got sacrificed for budget reasons. Look, I know Star Rail and Unlimited Blade Works have different age ratings. Star Rail is 12+, and UBW is TV-14. I wasn't expecting super dark themes, but I did want something more serious than what ended up feeling like Smash Bros compared to Mortal Kombat. Meet in the middle. Tekken is a great example. Mature themes, but nothing crazy. Star Rail is a story-driven game. There's precedent for mature storytelling. Hey, look, Even Firefly and Acheron's backstories aren't exactly PG. I think the devs were scared to scratch the surface here, and the more I think about it, the more disheartened I feel by all the lost potential. Traditionally, Holy Grail wars are a free-for-all, and in most series, there are team-ups. I know that, I do. But at the same time, don't you think it's just a bit weird that the entire roster of this Holy Grail war just ended up fighting one or two guys? It felt so lopsided. It didn't feel like a true Holy Grail war. It just felt like one guy versus everyone else, you know? So, in the end, what did we get? A fake collab with no real Grail war, barely any real sacrifice, and a lot of reused assets wearing different hats. I wanted to come out of this event feeling inspired, maybe even a little emotionally wrecked, the way that only Fate can do. But instead, I left feeling like I'd been on a sightseeing tour run by interns. There were glimpses of brilliance, don't get me wrong. Archer's speech, Rekka's concept, Saber's introspection, but they were fleeting. The rest felt like a missed opportunity dressed up in fan service. With Saber and Archer's banners being around long term, and the fact that their pool pity shares pity with other collab banners, it begs the question, will there be another collab? And if there is a possibility, would Fate want to go ahead with it? And that's considering whether the fans of Honkai Star Rail considered the Fate collab to be underwhelming or not. I'm just worried because I want Fate and Honkai Star Rail crossovers to be a more expansive thing in the future. But at the end of the day, I'm just a dude in my room chatting shit on the mic. So let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your thoughts and feelings in the comment section. And until then, I guess I'll just keep summoning doppelgangers from Wish and praying to the Holy Grail of better writing. Peace out. I just want to say a special thanks to everyone that watched this video today. It was my first video, well, at least my first proper one. I really enjoyed making it, and I plan to make more in the future, so thank you again, yeah, I appreciate it.